I'm getting Sales Rabbit or tool like Sales Rabbit to manage, like you said, motivate, to track and increase efficiency, and then to obviously help closing percentage. So it's like, okay, most of these door-to-door companies, in my opinion, they aren't good at those things. Like the biggest problem I run into is I can't get my guys to work. They go out for an hour or two and then they poop out. Let's talk about each of those three things: motivate, and how technology is a driver of that. Obviously I've got a manager that's running a sales meeting. I've got maybe trainers. I've got competitions going, but it's like there's an element of technology that should naturally motivate. So how does Sales Rabbit help or support that?
Let me share some thoughts on this to start with. So, when you think about how these companies pay their reps, right? Most of them are 1099, some are W-2, but it's really, you get paid to be the marketer and the salesperson, right?
Yeah.
You're originating the lead, the sales opportunity, and then you're pitching and you're closing that customer. And so you generally get paid really well in this industry because you're doing both those activities.
Yeah.
Whereas a traditional company, typically they bifurcate their budget. They have marketing dollars and they have sales dollars, right? And they're paying sales commission. Well, no company wants to bear the cost of marketing on top of their what they're paying their sales rep to go out and generate the deal. But what is happening in door to door, and I've said this for years, is the industry will move towards being less about prospecting and more about pitching and closing.
Yes.
And so the role now that data is playing is more critical than ever. And so when we talk about taking someone who's never done door to door before and graduating them into success quickly so that they retain and they continue to perform and build a career, or taking a rep who's been in it for a while and they're tired of the motions and they're not succeeding in, structuring a new paradigm to cause themselves to be motivated to go out and work every day, you're introducing a tool or a technology that changes the way that they view their work, that changes the way in which they view others that involve their work. And it literally changes the way in which they have to go work. Work is different. It's defined differently.
Yeah.
And so when you can use data, or like we just released a new product that's new mover leads. Well, we know that in security, security has used new mover leads for quite a while.
Yeah.
A lot of people.
I think pest. I think a lot of services. It's like
internet, satellite.
Yeah, you move into a house, you need TV, internet, satellite, pest, alarm.
And when you go and you look at how users use those leads and all of the work that goes into procuring those and then actually working them, it's cumbersome.
Yeah.
So we took that, we built a new product that's new movers, and we now provide that data right into our app. But we built a workflow around it that changes the way in which people have to do that type of work. I think that's motivating because the rising generation wants to work smarter, not harder. And they want things to technologically make sense to them. They want to feel like I'm okay doing door to door, but I just want to make sure we're doing it in the smartest way possible.
It kind of goes back to that first year rep when he comes to you and he's like, why are we not just selling the apartment complex instead of just you're like, well, in theory, obviously that'd be nice, but put your head down, go to work. But there's this natural innate oh, wow, this is efficient. This is really cool how we're doing this.
So we talk to a lot of companies about the millennial rep because this is, like it or not, this is your workforce that's upcoming. And there is this initial reaction of they're lazy or they're not working as hard as I did in my day. You need to earn it just like I did. It has to be exactly the way I went through it.
Yep.
And I think that companies who are a little more open can benefit from this by saying, okay, they don't necessarily want to do it the way I did, to churn through and work as hard as I did, but they're incredible closers. They're able to have conversations with people about technology, for example, if I'm selling solar, that I wasn't capable of before. So how can I queue up those conversations, skip over some of the canvassing work that needs to be done, and get them into a high buyer propensity situation? So like Zub was talking about with this movers product, you identify what's your trigger. Is it listing under contract, closed or something? The data drops to your rep in the app. And then, they're knocking on that door. They're going to be the first person in that conversation. And when we started beta testing this with some people, we were thinking of security, pest, internet, satellite, the kind of stuff that automatically comes to mind in these industries that were already doing this. And what's been surprising is I don't think there's a single industry we serve who's not intrigued by this and testing it. Solar has been a big one for us that was surprising because we were thinking, you do not want to be knocking on that door a day after close when you're a solar company. This person's not ready for that conversation. But what they'll do is we work with them to set a little bit of a delay up. So the data's dropping a month after close, person's moved in, they've got an energy bill in hand, and suddenly they're ready for that conversation. So I think the big question is, how can I identify high propensity buyers? How can I cue my reps up at just the right moment when they can have a meaningful conversation?
Love that. It's good.
Can I share a thought that doesn't have to do with technology, but I'm having, and I'm curious for your thoughts on this, Sam. Some of my favorite clients are the ones that create a holy cause as a company for their millennial reps. We're talking about the rising generation here. Something I find is like people more than ever, and I'm still young in my career, but people more than ever from what I've seen, they want to do work that's meaningful. They want there to be meaning and purpose behind it. And when we talk about like selling, these different products or services, some of them could probably be classed as being more meaningful based on the value that they create. But really,
wait,
it's
cat neutering? I mean, that's like, what about this cat neutering?
Yeah, think about the future.
It's a meeting. We got to think, there's a cat problem here, guys. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I love it. But I'm sure you could think of clients right now who do a really effective job of creating meaning outside of the product or service.
Yeah, we say it's not just a for-profit business; it's a for-purpose business as well as a for-profit.
Yeah,
love that. So what I found, are you asking me like, hey, what?
Well, it's just something I think as an industry we need to lean into more. In fact, I now's not the time, but I did a bunch of research. There's something called, there's a count that happens every year. A lot of these homeless coalitions, in order to get federal resources, they have to do a count every 2 years of the homeless people in their area, and it happens nationally. And I realized, I'm like, dude, this would be a really cool thing to bring to the door-to-door industry, and to go give software that better improves the homeless count, because there's tons of inaccuracy and it has to be done. And it's often done by volunteers. I'm like, this would be the coolest thing to take to the door-to-door world through the association or something.
So we're doing the On Watch thing. So
yes.
We just partnered with the On Watch with the Door-to-Door Association. They're partnered with OUR, the sex trafficking. And so in mid-March, we're filming like all the DD certification courses. And part of that will have the On Watch content, which we already got in there. And that's teaching door-to-door people how to identify for sex trafficking. So if you see a certain type of lock that's like locking people in a room, or if you identify this or that, like you would know how to say, okay, there's something fishy going on. I maybe should report this. And because sex trafficking is right in front of us, but we don't know how to identify like, this girl is in distress or whatever's happening. And I'm like, if we have hundreds of thousands of foot soldiers in the neighborhoods, like where else is there eyes and ears into neighborhoods like that, where they're literally talking to each individual homeowner? So that's a big one that we're definitely excited about.
I love it. We all need causes, beyond our own interests. And I love that. So.